I got robbed.
Did you get after 60? I started to like learn.
They were
Yeah.
using.
Using, yes, that's true.
That's
Oh, you're
the first thing is doors open, go.
We're gonna call the executive committee meeting in order. For a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
Oh, just that it's an amended one, please.
The amended one.
Any discussion on the amended agenda? All those in favor?
Aye.
Carried. I want our minutes from our March 10th.
I'll make a motion to approve the.
I'll second it.
Any discussion on the minutes? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Carries. Well, election of committee officers.
We're going to option B, which is an appointment by me to appoint you, Russell Arcan, to the chairmanship of the executive committee.
Can you do that?
That's the way the two alternatives within the rules of order. Either the county board chair is, or he or she appoints. He's got the option.
Can't get out of it now.
How about the vice chairperson?
You accepting that then? You're okay?
I'll take it. How about the vice chairperson?
Nominate Steve.
Any more nominations? Any more nominations for vice chair? Opportunity for vice chair. Steve will. How did we say general government, he will. He wants to take it or
By default.
by default? You're the vice chair. How about, is there any public comments? Any public comments?
No public comments, Mr. Chair.
Are there any supervisors not seated as committee members here? I'm not going to get any information.
And there's no other supervisors online.
All right. How about an overview of the committee assigned functions, duties, and responsibilities?
So the executive committee, now that it is comprised of the chairs of all of the other subcommittees and the county board chair, it's really a good place for all of the different county policies to come together. You serve as the ethics committee, so if there's ever a concern about a violation of the rules of ethics, whether it's statutory or your own rules, it would be brought to this committee. This committee also serves as the arbiter when there is a conflict between committees. If two committees believe that they should be the one taking the lead on a particular issue. You also serve as the committee that conducts the annual performance review of the county administrator. So that was delegated from the Polk County Board down to this committee. And at this point, you're also assigned as the negotiating team for the issues surrounding the conflict regarding the MOU with the Fair Society. So those are the main things.
Review of performance of external agencies.
Sure, all of the MOUs will come, the big MOUs. The word MOU really is just another word for contract or agreement, but those big ones with the external agencies like tourism, like the museum, like the EDC will come before this committee on an annual basis as well. In historic times, this committee would not meet as frequently as it has been and consistently because it would be a committee that would be called on an as needed basis, but as things have been added to the responsibilities of this committee, meeting more regularly has been the norm.
Mr. Chair,
Questions, comments?
do you want to go ahead and establish the meeting time and date under this topic?
We can. Either
To 11.
what's that 11?
The work plans, that would set the meeting date.
We can talk about the date and time here. Anyone?
So we're free now because Jen Gov moved over. So
No.
I would like an earlier one. Have we been normally 9 o'clock?
Well, we've tried 8:30. We've done 8:30,
8:30.
but then we found we didn't have enough to do an hour and a half in a meeting. I mean, a couple times we did, we were pushing into the general government meeting and not starting general government until 10:30 and supposed to be at 10.
We keep this day and they keep that day, then now we're good.
Yeah, time, anytime. The time.
I would say 8:30 or 9. I'm good.
Should we do the 8:30 on Thursdays and when needed? Also, should we put in there? That if there isn't enough, that, you know, if it isn't urgent, that we could do every other month or something, if it isn't.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I'm with Kim on
You know, 'cause
Not every
sometimes if
week.
there isn't much,
if we don't need it.
yeah.
Anybody, 8:30 gonna work?
We're here.
Dave?
Yep.
All right, we're gonna go at 8:30.
Second,
Second Thursday.
I'd rather 6.
All we have to do is change the time that the county starts.
I'll meet you here. You bring the food and drink, I'll be here.
Yeah, right.
All right, we'll do 8:30, and if, I mean, as we go, if that's not working, we'll just change. All right. I don't think, was that on there twice?
What?
Receipt of information, I thought I already asked.
It is. That was my error.
Okay. There's still not any supervisors who are not seated.
The answer's still the same.
so for procedure, can I just ask what? The other committee said they're not taking any public comment over the internet anymore. Is that going to be consistent here and general gov, do you think, to that? You're going to be charitable, so you get to decide that. I mean,
They're just letting the chair of each committee decide their public comment.
yes,
Consensus to have everybody do the same. whatever
Right,
it is.
and so the way, when Joe and Lisa and I met to try to incorporate the changes made at the county board into the codified rules of order in person was what we had,
they put in there, so.
or written, of course.
Always written, yeah, just that we. So environmental, we decided that at our last meeting, that we wouldn't take it anymore, that either written or in person.
Not read.
No, not always read.
Like if somebody appeared
Yeah.
by Zoom and tried to,
It tries to cut in and do it.
I think it's different if it's a public meeting, a public hearing, excuse me, where it's required. But ordinary public
Yeah.
comment is what we're talking about.
Just the ordinary.
We have the same option at the county board itself.
We voted for that one too, not to do it that way, in person or whatever, yeah.
Did we vote
Joe
that?
is online too, if he wants to.
We decided at the county board that we were not going to take public hearing.
That's
over Zoom.
unclear in my.
I don't think we did.
Public comment.
Public comment. I don't think we decided that at the county board.
No, I think we didn't decide it. We pushed it. We pushed it off to the next meeting.
And do we want to not do it because it's hard for staff? Is it a technical issue? Or I feel like it's easy enough. Everybody's been doing it for a couple of years. Why wouldn't we do it? If it's easy enough to just do. Is there some issue why we would change or?
So I think there's maybe 2 things here. First, I think what was decided at the board is whatever is decided for public comment was going to be consistent across all committees. I think that's the one thing that was decided, but what was left is how is public comment going to be received and what is public comment? And maybe we should address that under,
That is on the.
it's
on
on,
this agenda.
it's on this agenda to review the rules of order. And I think you still have that piece to put in the rules of order. How are we going to receive public comment? What is public comment?
All right.
That was something that was kicked up to this committee to work on.
Yeah, that'd be probably the more appropriate time to discuss.
But anyway, it doesn't appear that there are any online public comments, so it's a moot point as far as getting through that agenda item right now.
Today, yeah, okay.
All right, that would bring us to the review and develop recommendations of proposed rules of order.
I can put a flash drive in real quick.
Because it is in the packet.
And then I also handed out to the committee, if you recall from the board meeting, Supervisor Middleton requested and Chairman Luke directed it to this committee regarding the ethics of board members. I handed out the resolution from 2008, which is the current resolution that the board operates under regarding ethics. And this would be the appropriate topic or appropriate point to look at this as well, because it's in the rules of order. So that's why you received this.
And the Word copy I just plugged in, I don't.
Sure.
Does anyone have any recommendations on our rules of order?
For the code of ethics piece?
We just got that. We update that. Russ, you signed that back in the day. You look at the last page.
2008?
Yeah,
That was wild.
but we just got it. Is it something we should read and then come back?
Yeah, I'm wondering if we should.
If I could recommend, what I was gonna recommend is that we add this to the work plan, because this is a fairly heavy lift. And since it hasn't been addressed since 2008, we add it to the work plan for the next couple months and work on it. We could go through the changes that were approved at the board, to go back to the board that Malia and Lisa have codified. And then you can undertake the ethics piece as,
Well, these are the rules of order that you have up there.
Right.
We'll fold this in the next couple months.
right, I think it's a pretty heavy lift.
Yeah,
It probably has multiple meetings.
Yeah, okay. Good idea.
Wanna go through?
Yeah. Joe, are you online? Can you hop in?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
So Joe, Lisa and I met, and then I had to leave and go to court. So Joe and Lisa finished going through what they believe and what we believe after reviewing the last county board meeting. The full county board had as far as a consensus for the changes in the rules. Now, what you were going through at the county board meeting itself was not the codified version. It was just the freestanding version. So we had to, go through a little bit more nuanced and find out where things were. We believe we met the expectations of the full county board with this particular draft. I don't know if you want to go line by line, Lisa, with the major changes that we made as far as pulling it up here, or what's easier for everyone else.
Yeah, I can do that. Here, hopefully my memory serves me right, everything. Okay, so, just that first section, I believe that there was consensus. We were just going to change the review of compensations for supervisors was going to happen during August of the odd number of years prior to the election. So we just changed the annual meeting to the word August. That'll be the first change. There's section 223A. Next page. Let's see here. Section 225B. Chairperson, I think this is Brad Olson's motion that he had made. So the chairman shall appoint each board member to standing committees using a process that incorporates fairness and tenure preference. The process shall be agreed to by a majority of the board members prior to the appointment. We just struck the other verbiage. So there were two little parts here. That's the next section that's highlighted under C. Chairperson appoints the chairperson of the executive committee. There was a slight conflict or question about that in another section. So it's just highlighted if we want to make that consistent or if we want to leave it. So next highlight we see, we'll kind of address both of those. Let's see, item J, or I'm sorry, item I, we added at the bottom. Chairperson shall serve as a member of the General Government Committee. Decision made last board meeting. So if we skip 2 pages ahead. So in the agenda packet, it would be agenda packet page 10. Chad, I'm sorry, I don't know what page.
I'm on it.
Okay, 220, section 220, 256, K was struck. That was the striking of the disclosure of conflict of interest on the agendas. And then we just updated the lettering as we struck that one. Let's see,
So
so.
just to slow down there.
Yeah, sure.
Right before that J is that public comment thing. What is in there? Even though it isn't red.
Yeah.
So I can read
It
it.
just says that it's generally allowed. It's silent as to the method by which the public
Okay.
comment is received as far as in person or
Or on Zoom or whatever. So that's where we would add. If we
you were
wanted.
going,
it.
right.
Okay.
And
That's
that's,
what's in right now. Is that in the other old one? That's.
That's the
we're going
current
by.
language. And then that's public comment at county board meetings. There's another, if I
Okay.
recall correctly, later on, it talks about public comment on committees. So it is, public comment is in 2 separate sections in this version.
Is it silent in both places? Oh, we'll get there.
We'll get there.
Oh,
Yeah.
should we skip through and find it in the, as we continue to go the other public comments section, or do you want to take a moment to?
They mirror each other.
Okay, perfect. All right, gotcha. All right, so if we skip down to section 257 B, 1A and 1B, we made those changes. I think it was Supervisor O'Connell at the board meeting, strike the word after and change it to before, both of those sections. So next page. So section 258. This was just a small verbiage recommendation, I think, by corporate counsel, to the extent practical instead of possible. And then a duplication of the statute symbol, more of a typo there in that paragraph. Agenda packet page 13 would be the next update. So section 79, number 1. And so this is where the executive committee, composed of 5 members consisting of the county board chairperson, and then we struck the other verbiage and added, and the chairperson from each of the 4 standing committees. And then this would be the other portion, county board chairperson shall serve as the chairperson of the committee. So if we want to make that.
I think we need to remove that because the current language that's in another section that says that the county board chairperson appoints. So he or she could appoint him or herself or somebody else on the committee. So we can just remove that entirely.
Joe and I weren't sure, so he just said, let's.
I think we didn't know what was going to happen at.
Right, yeah, okay, perfect. We'll just strike that.
So that yellow line is gone.
Yep, yellow line will be perfect.
Then this next section regarding the ESC and the FSA representative, after some discussion, we thought the cleanest way was to remove that second section because then the FSA representative simply is another member of the committee and has all of the rights and responsibilities except being able to serve as chairperson. So that was the discussion at county board, allowing them to vote on any matter before the ESC.
Looks like just a couple more. Agenda packet page 15. This was just something that a recommended change by corporation counsel regarding the agenda. So number 12 on section 281, number 12. So the agendas, the committee chairperson in conjunction with the division director must oversee the preparation of agenda for all committee meetings county clerk will circulate a copy. So everything would stay the same, but it just inserts that rule that the chair of the committee works with that division director to help set up the agenda, and then it goes to the county clerk. Everybody's on the same page.
Which is more or less just codifying what you already do.
Yes, exactly. Let's see here. So,
And if you want to go back up, Lisa, to number 14, that's the public comment for committees. And again, it's silent as to
That one's silent.
how it's done. We can discuss that after we're done going through all the other changes. I just wanted to point out that that's where that was housed.
agenda packet, page 16. See, so we're section 282, number B1 under Environmental Services Committee. So this is where we struck Parks, Recreation, and Trails, struck Lime Quarry, and made sure that it says UW Extension Office only related to agricultural issues. So that was that change. And then under section 2, the University of Wisconsin Extension was struck from the agencies and organizations. We did talk to Bob Kazmierski regarding the trail commissions or trail committees that were under that list. That was being moved over, but he said that those are best left under the Environmental Services Committee due to their functions. So.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I thought we moved West Cap to general government too.
Oh,
Yeah, I think West Cap is supposed to be in general government.
thank you. All right.
And did we move WRPC, West Central Regional as well? I thought we moved West Cap and West Central Regional to general government for funding like we do the others. And I don't have my notes on this in front of me, but
I think we did though.
We can take a look at the recording as well before next Tuesday and make sure.
Okay. I think we did.
In general government, yes. Two general.
Okay. So let's see, agenda packet page 17. So let's see, number 11. Just struck number 11 because it refers to Lime Quarry. Let's see, so then under the General Government Committee, section C there, we did insert the UW Extension Office, except for matters related to agriculture under the General Government Committee. And you will see that we did insert that at letter J under number 2 also. There was a slight change in the name of the IFLS library system. We decided that was just so, I guess, more of a systematic change because they changed their name. We just referred to it the same way that they have it on their website. IFLS, formerly Indian Head Federated Library System. So, read that page. Agenda packet page 18. Number 11, we've added General Government Committee shall serve as the Committee on Agriculture and Extension Education pursuant to Wisconsin statute. We just took that from the section under Environmental Services and moved that to the General Government section. Let's see here.
And that's as a function of the UW Extension getting moved to general government. UW Extension by statute has to fall under that Agriculture and Extension Education Committee, which would then, for us now, be the General Government Committee.
And I did just pull up the running sheet I had. We did recommend both West Cap and West Central Wisconsin Regional Planning shift from environmental services to general government.
Okay. We'll move that. Here. All right. So still on page 18 of the packet under Public Safety, Public Works. We added the assigned functions. We added the Parks, Recreation, and Trails Department. We did verify with Bob Kazmierski, the division director, on the title of how we wanted that noted. And then we also added the recycling center.
Where do we have recycling before?
We didn't have it under
It wasn't
anything.
cited
Yep.
there.
I think that was our last update. Basically just
So other than those two that we need to move to general government, is there anything else that this committee thinks was missed as far as the updating of the codified draft, or what was a consensus at the last county board? If not, then I think we can set that aside and say, yep, other than those two changes we need to make, we're okay, and then have the discussion about public comment and then shift to ethics before we move the entire thing back to the county board. That would be my recommendation.
All right, what about public comment? I don't think that would be finalized. I think we did just want to be consistent. Well,
Yeah, because it's on their letterhead also here that they have to send out ahead, so it's doesn't really say there, either public comment will be taken from those in attendance. So it doesn't say anything about the Zoom and stuff on the letterhead that they send out, so. I think that's the one that was on EC so that we couldn't take it. Comment.
I mean, the
But I think that's
practical,
something the full board should probably decide if they want to do it or not, because then they have to, it has to be advertised, right?
Right.
It should.
so from a practical standpoint, taking public comment when they're on Zoom, and I'm not IT, but how do you decide who goes first? Where when people are speaking in person, they get up and move, and sometimes there's a line, that kind of, I don't know, but those are just some practical. How do you unmute people and you unmute everybody? But I'm sure there's got to be maybe a way to raise their hand and put them in a queue or something like that.
We just got Zoom going, which is so much better. It's like now, we've struggled with WebEx and people have always complained to me about this or that on it. And now I've had more good feedbacks on the Zoom piece than I have. So it's sort of like we kind of are hitting our groove on this, and I hate to shut it down. I don't know. I'm always for making it easy for people. We want to hear from people, and let's make it easy. They have to run to work. Like for example, today, they can pop in on a coffee break and give a comment and not have to take off work, drive to Balsam Lake. And I know that other supervisors seem to have a lot to say about this at the full board. I don't remember who was talking, but there was a lot of chatter about this topic. So I think I'm with Kim in that we should probably kick it back to the board, because I think the board needs to decide, are we being consistent? And what is that consistency? So it's sort of two questions.
And there is the cow on the county board agenda for the rules of order, so it'd be a good place to have that discussion.
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know when. I mean, we've had public comment in general government, but very seldom.
You don't get a lot, yeah.
Well, we just don't get a lot of public comment. And, when they come in, usually it's 8, 10 of them come in. And then one may only speak out of all of them, but I don't know. I'm not opposed either way. I really don't care. I mean, the public comment doesn't run the county. It is good to hear from, but it's only hot button issues. And it's way more effective for them to come here in person than it is just up here on the screen. So I guess if they want to be effective, coming here is I don't know for now. I mean, is this committee, are we going to send any recommendation to county board on public comment? If we are, somebody has to move on something.
I would say that we would send it, that we would, whatever we decide, it would be for all the committee meetings.
It'd be
The committee,
consistent
yeah, it'd
throughout
be
the
consistent, whichever way we end up going. if we do go with Zoom or whatever, that means every committee and the full board should do it. I think so. Everything's the same.
That's been done. I think we've already said that.
Yeah.
It's just, is this committee gonna send any recommendation to county board?
Them enough. We came out of that last meeting and we're with a little bit of gray. I mean, we didn't really ask them what they thought. Feels like we should ask the cow and say, kick it around there, and then we make a decision based on what really came out of that meeting.
I thought what got us so confused in county board was whether or not we were gonna have the minutes or the public comments available, who was gonna keep track of it. I think that's what got us so bogged down.
I think.
The recording and stuff.
I think you have two separate questions. I think you have, first, are we going to accept public comment speakers virtually, on the phone, and in person, or just in person? And then the other question is, what is considered public comment by this board? Is written considered public comment, and is that going to be retained and disseminated to everybody? I think there's two separate questions there. It's kind of-
Isn't there a third question? Are they all, is what we decided the county board consistent amount of solid?
Yeah, that I thought we settled, though.
Did we settle that?
According to my notes here,
We settled it.
according to my notes here, it was recommended that there was consistency
Okay.
across all
Whichever
committees.
way we went.
But you still had the two remaining questions out there.
Regarding the,
But we were arguing about what is public comment? Because when, like, we have a lot of public hearings at the environmental, well, that you have to record. For public comment, you just come up and say anything.
Well, take.
You know, so do we say all these public comments, or do we not, or what? You know, what's?
Right, and so a member of the public might email each supervisor individually. And not in the forum of, I'm sending it to the clerk so it gets disseminated. So they're still sharing their viewpoints with the supervisors. But would that be considered part of the record if the county board decision were ever challenged? Like in the situation with the Stour Trail litigation, that's a writ of cert, one of the actions. And there is the record that we had to compile to send to the circuit court. So what would we be sending? Would we be sending individual emails that went from a citizen to a particular supervisor? Because if it wasn't considered by the whole board, it wouldn't be a part of that record. So it's a real interesting question. It's much more straightforward in a public hearing. But the statutory, because you're like, we're opening the evidence, here's the evidence, written stuff comes in and we're closing it. But when you're just, day-to-day government, what is included in the record if you were ever challenged?
And what did we do on Stour? What was the submitted?
Yes.
The kitchen
But I
sink.
mean, one person can come at a county board, talk about Stour, the next one come talk about the budget and stuff. Not even what's on our agendas in it. So every month it could be different. It could be
And that's
different
actually an
things.
option.
And you have to go back and find
A
it.
lot of the other boards have limitations on public comment that they have to be speaking on a matter on the agenda as a limitation.
Yeah, that's a limitation what they can
How do
say.
you
That's hard.
limit them when they're up there speaking?
That's-
You
yeah.
know,
The chair would have to cut them off and then it's
Yeah.
time, place and manner
I
restriction.
do that a lot. You gotta cut people off. I mean, even in public hearings, they get off.
And then the
That
one,
is recorded, but like public comment,
and the one other question that's still out there regarding public comment, just to refresh the committee. Supervisor Middleton asked, I can't remember if it was the board or the committee, to consider posting all the written public comment on the new website. That's going quickly. But there is one thing that I think we might have to address there regarding open records laws. If we post what people write, we've got a lot of restrictions on what we can redact. It's very limited what we could redact. So if you post everything written, you could have somebody just have an expletive or accusatory written that's automatically going to get posted to the website. And I don't know if we can actually redact it because I know we can't on an open records release.
I just know from a staff standpoint and a legal standpoint, I think you're opening up a can of worms, so to speak. If you start creating our website as a social media.
No, yeah.
And because if somebody writes one thing, one might be, so what if it's profane, but they might be misinformation. And then you get people going back and forth, and if it comes in and we have to post it, then in essence, what I'd rather do is really focus on what is public comment restricted. And I don't mean restricting people from making public comment, but making sure it's something that it is part of the argument, legitimate, people who are actually care and are working at it, and not just part of a campaign.
Well, and will the county board supervisors, if it really becomes a posting of just people writing into the county clerk's office, how many county board supervisors are going to go and review that? I don't know.
I mean, if it got posted on a link in the website, right? Yeah, because when I was thinking this through, because this came to me from a request from a constituent, because they said, it used to be that the comments that you get during a agenda item were attached to the minute, so you could see it, and they were actually watching it. And then it got stopped at some point along the lines, and I didn't really note it at that time. But then I sort of put some thought into trying to figure this issue out, and it seemed to me like I don't think that stuff that Joe Schmo just emails me directly or individually should necessarily be out there, but I felt like Lisa's office could be the funnel, and then, because that becomes public record, the second it goes there. and somebody
Anything to
said-
you is also public record.
Well, yeah, that's true,
So-
right, no, exactly, but I was trying to figure out how to like get it more, not restricted, but restricted. Because I would hate to have, I don't know if, it's subjective about what somebody would think was somebody working on an issue and somebody caring, like, we can't have a subjective.
The sheriff's office gets a lot of hate mail. You want to read some?
Right.
Well,
I mean, you can read it. Can they
Yeah, we
put it
get some
out?
directly,
I mean, so
right. No, I
that
want to
would be
read that.
scary if you read some of the letters they get.
And,
Put it on the internet.
and from a human resources standpoint, I gotta be honest, that's a little bit of one of my concerns if we post anything that comes in the county clerk's office on the website for all to see. If we have a subject who is just really out after a county staff member or something, we can't redact under open records laws. And if we post it, then we're using our website to basically promote the hatred of that person towards a staff member. I worry about that from an HR director
I love government
standpoint.
employees.
I do worry about that one a little bit.
But your constituent on that, with the notes, that was at public hearings. Those notes were saved.
Right, and that's
So the
statutory.
big
operation.
trails, the big things, there were stacks of all those.
I didn't.
It wasn't
Did it
at
say
a full,
public
just a
hearing?
regular board meeting. It was never
Because it
done.
was earlier in my kind of career, so I wasn't necessarily tracking that. new
No,
one.
it was never.
It was only just
It
public
was
hearings.
public hearing,
I will
because
say,
there was a lot of public
at the
hearings.
discretion of the chairperson, I know that we have had some specific requests like this, these public comments I would like attached to the agenda. So we have made exceptions in specific cases when we've been directed by the chairperson who controls the agenda. I will say that.
But not very
So
often.
maybe that's what they were looking at, if somebody happened.
Great, yeah.
Okay.
If you look at what is public comment, what we want it to be, we don't want it to be, public square where people stand up and shout anything, right? I think public comment is to get public input on matters of importance and matters at hand. And so anything we can do to direct people, we encourage public comment. Here are the rules. And I know whether you do it on video or not is up to you, but I think there is something to be said for people who take the effort and the energy to make it a formal request or presentation as opposed to, hey, let's get online and let's see if we can block all 30 minutes by arguing.
We may not stay online. We chose to more transparency, and we chose to film our meetings. It was never filmed, ever.
For that, no.
Before that, people came, gave comments, that wasn't recorded what they said. They came up, had their 3 minutes. They tried to lobby and sway supervisors on different matters. And, when we allowed the TV and the filming, and then when people weren't supposed to gather, we still wanted the public, wanted their comments. So we allowed public comment through video without them having to appear. Well, if we can appear, they can appear. They can come here. I mean, we're sitting here, no one's wearing a mask. The crises, I call it, is temporarily over. And I don't think if we make a policy that will accept comment video, we've just locked ourselves into forever video.
And what happens if there's ever a glitch?
Well, yeah, if we decide that, no one's tuning in, we're getting no response, the public, tells us we're wasting their money doing it, we may quit videoing someday.
Like earlier, the internet goes down. We're not filming the rest of the meeting. Now what? Do
So
they
what?
consider
I
it a
mean-
closed meeting then? Do
Well,
they-
it just carried, this
what I mean?
only is for anyone who wants to tune in.
Yeah.
This isn't our record.
Yeah.
We just said, we'll put a camera up and you can watch what we're doing. Tune in anytime and watch.
Yeah.
But now to extend the watching to allow them to participate in our meeting from sitting at home watching, I'm not buying it. I'm buying it that if I can come here to the meeting, they can come here and give public comments if they have. And definitely not make it part of the record. I mean, it's a comment.
It's not a debate.
No, we don't respond to them.
No, I don't think we should do that at all.
No, and just,
The way it used to be, I mean, if somebody had an issue that they wanted to confront the county board with of any significance, they always, years ago, they'd go to their own personal supervisor. And he or she, mostly all he and the farmers, but they would bring it to the.
or say
county
12 farmers called me on this issue. And,
That's right.
just so the rest of the board was aware of.
But and that was done through their local people. Where there is now, but I would think if somebody were to contact the clerk, because I think it should be definitely available for her to say, well, contact your local supervisor, here's his name, or here's her name, and here's the number. And contact them for this issue. And if it's controversial, we'll know by the time the supervisor gets done with it.
Or they'll still send it.
Right.
Yeah, I find people are doing both in my district. They're calling me and they're sending stuff in. Because I just kind of track, I know, oh, that's who called me, so I'm getting both. Lucky me.
What do you guys do?
I have no problem with in person, of course, and, Lord knows the communications that we got over the trails and the CAFOs and the came through perfect on my computer. I was able to read everyone, unless they were a form letter, I read the first sentence. But, it was a good way to communicate. We got all the information we needed.
The letters that we got.
Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
see any reason to open up the door there. The other thing, they're not controlled when they're on video with us. They can say anything. If they want to get that one or two bad words in about somebody, they will. It isn't necessary, in my opinion.
We're not adding, we're not changing. We've been doing it video public comments. So we're saying, basically the question is, we're not going to do video public comments anymore. Because they'll still send us letters. I mean, that's just going to be,
that's fine.
that's going to be a given, right?
Yeah, that's fine.
And they can still, and like, there will be on the screen, like for here, if there's not room, we have them set up in another. They're right in the room.
They're here, they're just in another room.
We can send the sheriff out.
You're saying they're testifying in that other conference room.
Yeah, if there's
Up
a-
in West, yeah.
Just give me one of those.
And anecdotally, I mean, this is anecdotal because I haven't written it down, but I've looked at a lot of other county and city websites. Like when we went to the civic clerk software and all how they're delivering the meetings. And I haven't found one yet. Honestly, I've not found one yet where public comment is made virtually, except during the COVID lockdown period they were doing. Otherwise, everybody's back to in-person public
I'm
comment. That's just anecdotal.
all for that.
All right, well, so if this committee isn't gonna send any recommendation to the county board, we're just gonna let it happen at county board, have the discussion at county board and make it consistent throughout the committees.
Everybody get one shot at comment.
If I can just make a quick comment, I did double check the county board agenda. We don't have a committee of the whole on the upcoming agenda.
Gonna have.
That's fine. But, so you know.
No,
Yeah. Lisa, I had one supervisor call me yesterday afternoon,
Oh.
and then Malia, and then I talked to Jay after last meeting. So I just wanted to make sure it was good before.
aren't
I
there
came.
rules of order and that on the agenda because we never finished them? So
That's what we're adding to the,
Yeah.
and adding a cow.
To talk about this, to get this
The rules
finished.
of order topic of discussion was on the agenda, just not under a committee of the whole.
yeah, well, okay. If it doesn't happen in committee of whole, it doesn't, this has to be a little more formal. But it still happens.
Right, I'm doing a quick overview of some things like closed sessions and open meetings law and public records, you know, for the new supervisors.
Are we doing an orientation?
This is kind
Is
of
this the
a,
orientation?
it's not
Like we did last time?
full blown, but it's some high level things to be aware of,
Okay.
kind of thing.
So they will get some new stuff.
Yeah, we did a
Slowly,
little
yeah.
bit last month with what the committee
Yeah.
functions are, and now Malia will go over
Okay.
some basic things. But we're not gonna have WCA come give a presentation.
Okay.
Unless it's
All right, so did we develop any recommendation on the proposed rules of orders? Or just what was highlighted?
Yeah, I think as far as recommendations, if you would endorse that with those two additional changes moving from ESC to general government, West Cap and West Central Regional Planning, with those changes, the rest of it does reflect.
There's a
What the
couple
county
are gonna
board-
strike something.
Chair.
Yeah, and I think we made that change real time once Jay appointed you.
All right, so what do we say?
And I've drafted a resolution for the full county board to ordain this new ordinance, so that'll be.
Do you need us to do a motion or?
I mean, you can either do it by consensus, the way the county board did, or. I think consensus is fine.
To move it forward this way. Okay, because we still haven't went through the ethics, we're gonna have that like an appendix or what?
Well, that was given to you by the full county board to decide if we want to make some changes to it. I don't know that you
Oh,
want to do
okay,
that
okay,
today.
then
I think here,
okay.
now you have a copy and then you put it on your work plan.
I think I'm with Chad for sure. We
Yeah.
want to do that today.
That was my thought.
So with the rules of order, do we get to put, are you gonna number these? So we're not doing page, packet number, odd page?
Well, again, it's codified in Muni code. So that's the
does it have
form.
the numbers to argue over and,
You want a summary sheet, is that what you're asking?
no, I want the numbers, line numbers, so we're not sitting here going
You like on a
225, it should be.
resolution?
line 184, boom, got changed
Okay.
on the side.
You know,
Which
you
all of our
can't find it
resolutions
without-
usually have.
when
Right,
you
but
go-
this isn't, this will be attached to the resolution.
Okay. And it won't be line numbered, so we'll be sitting at
Yep,
the
you'll
full
be-
board as usual.
And it'll
What
be okay.
page numbers
You'll
here?
survive.
What page numbers up
You can do
here?
it.
You can, I believe in you, Kim.
Okay,
I'll
And
sit by you,
yeah.
help ya.
because we were always gonna put it in an appendix and always have that, so we have all these resolutions the same. I'm still gonna say I would like the names under the lines, so we know who signed it. Because you can't read all these signatures, and plus whoever submitted by, at least have their name under that too. We did do that the last time, see, and you did put it in an appendix and it didn't happen.
Is he on the rules of order or what's?
That's the rules of order. So that worked, because if you look at every other resolution, the numbers are on the side.
Yeah.
So
You're
now-
on resolutions?
He's bouncing between.
It's
the two.
part of, that's how we wanted to do it, resolutions. and have their names, so we know who signed them. That's part of our rules of order, how a resolution is, the format.
That's how you're tying it in.
Yeah, because it's the format, but we should have names under all these. Because you go back to 2008, you can't even read some of those, so we don't know who did it. We don't know who to blame.
Here, look, Kim, you bring it up every time and we've looked at that. We have not successfully found a way to do it that makes sense.
Okay.
But we will continue to consider, what if, instead of me giving my signature for Lisa to put on there, if I do my signature and then
Print your name on it.
I print my name or my,
That'll work,
I don't know, it may be really small. You may not be able to read my signature, but you'll see my.
So you want it like that?
Well, put their names underneath there. So it says reviewed by, like Chad, you don't know that was Chad. So 10 years from now, you don't know who did this.
And
I
years
see.
from now,
So
we're
you
gonna
want,
have
you
more
want,
I want their names under there. So you know who actually signed stuff.
Right.
Because there's some resolutions are submitted, you don't know who submitted.
Yeah, we've tried to do it, but
Sure.
to get it on a piece of paper, it blows everything up. So we'll
But
keep
then, like,
working on that.
The same argument wise, I mean, put the numbers on the side like this for the lines. It's easier to go through stuff, than pick a line number.
We do that for resolutions.
But we should almost do that for this till it's done. Because it would be easier to say.
But we're lifting it from Unicode and then we have to try to put it into the word.
You can't, you can't.
I mean, maybe we can, but it's outside of my.
We are we're introducing new technologies. And one of those is like DocuSign and stuff. We're trying to figure out a way where we can do our resolutions by DocuSign. And if it's DocuSign,
Then you'll see.
then the name is actually printed with a timestamp
Sure.
instead of signature. But technology takes time to implement, but we are really working
Sure.
hard on it. You know, if you notice, we've got some new stuff out now. Piece by piece. But we do take note of all this and we try to implement.
all right, anything else on the rules of order? Any other recommendations? Let's move on to resolution 2422.
This is just a resolution authorizing me to enter a memorandum of MOU with the city of Taylor Falls and County of Chicago for the purposes of including the communication technology that we've already approved. This has no financial bearing. It's just can I call it a formality?
So this is implementation of that we passed a while ago.
Yes.
Getting the repeater.
Right. It's just an MOU.
You just want us to move this forward to the full county board with a recommendation?
Couldn't this just be a consent agenda item?
Yeah.
I mean, we've already approved it. We're already doing it.
I make
This
a
is just
motion,
an
we move
official.
it to the county board, full county board with the.
Actually not going to county board, was it?
We'll go on the consent agenda.
I thought it does. Don't that
Oh,
have
it's going, but on the consent agenda?
Second.
All right,
Any more discussion? All in favor?
aye,
Carried.
unanimous.
All right, how about our committee work plan?
So my suggestion for the ethics issue, because I think for twofold, number one, it's a big issue. Number two, it hasn't been addressed since 2008. I anticipate this would take 2-3 months, to be honest, maybe longer for you guys. Really, I think my recommendation is under program evaluation and upcoming issues. I think for June, July, and August, we ought to put review ethics policy for county board members, and that way you guys can just work on it each month.
I think that's enough time for everybody with their different ethics.
It may not be, but I think 3 months is the least time you would get it accomplished, and to be honest.
If it's the only thing on July, we can have it done. Because July is empty.
That's true. You could spend all of July on it.
Yeah, and we're not gonna be under time constraints anymore, so we can start at 8:30 and break for lunch. Break for lunch, and then
It'll be over.
try to get done by supper time.
Yeah.
So I guess what would be helpful on this issue from Julia and I, is there any materials, research, or background that you want us to get together for the committee to work on this beyond the existing resolution, which I put out?
What's changed in ethics from 2008 till now?
I have a feeling maybe there will be stuff that comes up as you guys work on it, that you say, okay, next month we want you to bring us this. I just want to
I
stay
mean, do you
ahead
want
of
there
it.
to be penalty clauses in there? Do you want there to be,
There is, there's already forfeiture.
Thousands of dollars.
so who's gonna be, referring
Enforcing
to
it.
court, oh,
The
right?
judge, walk them over here.
District attorney.
That's who took us to court on the open meetings law, it was the judge, it was $25 a piece.
Yeah, that's right.
Didn't
Didn't
he?
have to pay him. We got fined.
We got fined.
All right, hold on, though. We're not supposed to be talking about this.
Got a criminal record. What do you mean?
Yeah.
This will be on our next meeting agenda. We're only discussing the calendar. Committee work plan.
So the
Anything
rest-
else for the committee work plan? We're gonna put this on for 3 months.
The rules of order then be on right with it then,
No.
Or
Rules of
separate.
order will be done at the next county board.
should almost be done at the next time.
Yeah, I mean, if you have a public comment at committee of the whole, the rest of the rules of order, the last straggler is the ethics issue.
Okay.
All right, anything else for the work plan?
Yeah, one other thing, Russ, we did hear back from the Fair Society. They gave us a couple of days. I think the board originally assigned negotiation to this committee. And so they provided us with some days to engage in that negotiation. They gave us May 31st and June 3rd. And so one of those days, if this committee wants to engage in that negotiation, and if those days work, pick one. I have the West Conference Room in the Government Center reserved for us on both of those days, all day. So if the committee wants to pick one or both, that's available. Otherwise, I haven't looked into this particular room you're in right now. I thought it was going to be too small, but in looking at it, it looks like with the people that are in here, it's going to be the same people that are doing the negotiations. So it looks like there's plenty of room. So I can look into this room as well, but that's up to you guys.
Can I ask a question? Joe, can you remind me, we had, at the board, we talked about assigning people, and it feels like you were one of, didn't we come up with like a couple people, or did we just kick the whole thing over to executive? Negotiation.
My recollection is that it was assigned to executive to do the negotiation. I think one of the asks of the Fair Society was that the current chair not engage, and I think that the discussion at the board was that that was an agreement. And so obviously that's no longer an issue. But my recollection is that it was just assigned to the executive committee.
Okay. That's good. I remember what we decided.
How many people are they sending? If there's 5, this room's big enough, how many people are coming?
Could be hundreds.
Joe, didn't you talk to their attorney about having like 4 people?
It'll be a handful, yes. So I think our ask was, I think it was that their executives not be the members, that there be other people from the fair board that come. But yes, it would be likely a handful. Similar to probably the size of the executive committee.
We don't hardly need to put that on our work plan. We're either gonna, we're just gonna set some meetings up and.
Right.
We put it on our work.
So the 2 options, do you guys want to decide on May 31st or June 3rd? Then
Well,
we don't
let's
know.
take May 31st and see if we need June 3rd.
June 3rd's out.
Yeah, me too.
No.
Well,
We'll be
we can
gone.
always go back to them and say, we can do it May 31st.
What's the 31st?
And if
What
we
is
need to
it?
meet again, it can't be June
What day of the
3rd.
week?
Yeah, Monday.
I think the 31st is a Wednesday.
May 3rd.
Tuesday, it's a Tuesday.
It would be the Monday after Memorial, or the Tuesday after Memorial Day.
Did they give a time?
The last time I was speaking with Mr. O'Sullivan, I believe the proposal was from 10 o'clock until 1 or something like that. Just because he is coming from down in River Falls, so he has to get up here, engage with his client probably for a little bit of time beforehand, and then we would have those 3 or 4 hours to then engage in the negotiation. And if it needs to get set out for another day, then go on from there. But
All right, so we should start at 10, hold 10 o'clock then? And then, what'd you say? 2?
See if they can come earlier. River Falls isn't that far.
Yeah, you might want to come. Joe, are you going to meet with these folks prior?
So if Joe is out, then I will step in. If Joe is in, he will handle it.
So do you want us here earlier than 10? When they arrive?
What do you think, Joe? Right?
It'd be nice to have some type of briefing of what.
I know what we're gonna do.
Well, it's up to you guys. We're here to facilitate, but
right, we could absolutely have a closed session that starts before the negotiation starts and discuss for 30 minutes or an hour or however long.
It's gonna be an executive meeting, a full session for negotiation.
yes. And negotiations, and because they've threatened lawsuit, we've got both subsections for authorizing the closed session.
And are we expected to lead the discussion, the questions, the negotiations, and you guys are just on the side referees, or
Well,
are somebody gonna kick it off?
Really, the only parameters that Joe and Rory have discussed, who would be at the table and can we start fresh? So there really have not been any, we don't know what they're gonna come in and ask outside of their previous 2 demand letters. Whether they're gonna come in with kind of a fresh perspective and want to really renegotiate the existing MOU, or if they are gonna come in and say how much you're willing to give us to, we don't know. But I think the ball's in their court, wouldn't you say, Joe?
I would say so. I expect them to come in. They likely, I would anticipate, come in and say, all right, what's your response to the letter? But after that, I really think it is going to be what they want to do to move forward. So
Would we technically be discussing this?
Well, we're not making any decisions, we're planning, but you're right, we're getting into some meat. So why don't we will circulate any materials like the demand letter so that you can refresh your recollection before. We'll set it, let's have them come here at 9 that day, Joe. And we can have that, yes, and we can have that closed session and go over how we got here, where we are today and what we expect.
So we'll get a copy, we'll now know what the present MOU is.
We can circulate the present MOU, we can circulate their demand letter.
That's basically where we're sitting.
Right.
From there on, it's
Representative.
either accept that, are they gonna come up, other than is their demand letter gonna be their proposal for a new MOU?
No.
All right, let's discuss this at 9 a.m. May 31st.
Okay, 9 a.m.
And then we'll build the agenda to meet with them at 10. Assume a full session, maybe.
Both of them.
Yeah, pretty interesting. It's open.
I think both of them will be closed.
Yeah, close.
And does our chair run the meeting? Or is this just
Only
literally?
the part of.
Both parties will be represented. It'll likely be Joe or me.
We don't have to have a structure of, it'll be,
We can talk about in the night, when we meet at 9.
okay. I was wondering
We'll
what-
have to have some, so there is an argument match, screaming match.
Yeah, I mean, does that mean that Russ has to
That's not-
referee?
All right, we're setting up 9 a.m. May 31st. All right.
I will look into getting this room reserved, but if this room is already reserved for something else, we have a backup in the West Conference room. So
All right, sounds good. How about anything else for our work plan?
Not that I'm aware of. I've been doing
Yeah,
it.
just, the executive committee can take on projects as needed as we go.
All right, how about subject matters? Well, our next meeting is gonna be May 31st. but We already know the subject matter.
We will be at
June, July, and August are all more.
That's the first.
Luke here. Take
We add anything to that 31st meeting or just leave that? Yeah, we should be good. That should be-
Yeah, that'll be the only reason we're meeting.
Okay.
We'll put something after the closed session so that if you do come to any tentative agreements that you want to make recommendations to the county board, you move that along.
All right, got one item to go.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor? Carried.
No, for
11. 04.